It's centered up. You're kind of like in the green room as YouTube goes live. Hello, YouTube. Rob Anderson, running for Congress in Louisiana's 3rd Congressional District, here with my lovely wife, Clarissa. If you'd been on Twitter Live, you would have already known that. So yeah, we're calling this the anniversary edition because yesterday was our 30th wedding anniversary. June 23rd, 1990. Somehow I got her into a church and she said yes. Or I do, I think is the official nomenclature. Yeah. Just as a lark, obviously she traveled with me out to the office this time. We live in one part of the district and the office is all the way in the other, near where the people are. So she's traveling with me this week and we just thought we'd mix it up and have her on with me. And that way, it's kind of an extension of my anniversary vacation, which was lovely to have. We had an actual day and almost a half away from campaigning. It was a much needed rest even during the days of COVID. So we did get one of my Twitter followers and friends sent us a question ahead of time, which Clarissa is going to help her with because they're directly for her. They're not for me. So I'm going to sit quietly here. I'll just read the question. This is from Lieutenant Uhura, of course, not the real Nichelle Nichols. I know the user. But that is the tag. Oh, thank you to Tristan and Ann, said happy anniversary. Thank you. Here are the questions from Lieutenant Uhura. We know the dog is named Jane. Now that would be Dave Longlinay's dog, who's right over there. Jane, come here, Jane. We'll have her make an on-camera appearance. Why not? It's an informal issue. Come on, Jane. Put your head up. There she is. That's Jane. Hi, sweetheart. Hi. Yeah, that's my personal mouth. No. That's Jane. That's Dave's dog, which is where we filmed these more casual Swamp Tide chats where we did before we've moved into the office. But today we did a lot of traveling, so we're just here in front of the painting, and this is the actual swamp side. The reason we call it that is about 100 feet that way is an actual swamp. So it's not just pocket bayou. Yeah, it's not an affectation. That's why we named it that. I think Claire came up with the name, or it might have been Ush, or it might have been Dave. It wasn't me, so don't blame me for that. I'll take credit for it. There you go. So back to Lieutenant Uhura's question: how many cats are there? So I was qualifying that Jane is here, Dave's dog, and the cats are at our house back at Quincy.
Yes. Well, we've been rescuing animals forever, so every animal we have is a rescue animal. And we have my cats who think I'm their mom, which is very nice. And their name is Shere Khan and Baloo from the Jungle Book. And then we have our son's cat, whose name is Juno. And we have Orange, which you've seen, I guess.
Bayou Bob.
Bayou Bob.
Yeah, Orange.
His name is Orange, and he is about 21 years old.
Yep.
So I call him our OG, which is original gangster.
The OG Orange, yeah.
Yes.
It was named by our then 3-year-old, hence the name.
Yes.
He's spoiler alert, he's an orange cat. So that's our cats. And then of course she asked most seriously, okay, Jane, you can go now. Go. Off you go, off camera, please. Thank you.
No more kissing.
Yeah. No. Most seriously, what issues/causes do you feel your husband, that would be me, should take on first in DC?
Well, my main issue has always been education. That's one of the most important things. I was a teacher for many years, and education here especially needs to be upgraded. Getting Wi-Fi out to the rural areas, because a lot of those children there, they can't do homeschooling. They don't have the Wi-Fi. The infrastructure isn't there. So that's one of my personal, I think education is one of the most important things.
And it ties in with infrastructure, which is obviously something we advocate, because you can't build a house on a swamp. You got to put a foundation first. And we believe, obviously, education is that foundation. And then a segue to another question. This is from Kevin Ullman, who's one of our big followers. If he's on Twitter right now, hey, look, you're famous. More famous. I think he's already famous. So it says, your Twitter bio lists 3 specific support points, by which he means I have them hashtagged on my bio. Unions, autism awareness, and LGBT plus rights, which is true. And also Rob Mob, which is obviously self-explanatory. because one of our Twitter followers did an alliteration, or I call it sound alike onomatopoeia out of a hashtag, and kind of stuck. Rob Mom. Portmanteau. Thank you. I couldn't remember the term. Can you elaborate on the reasons for each of those and why they're personal to me? I'm going to start with unions, and then we're going to answer the next two together. Unions, obviously, is how we created and built our family, because I had a job at a union when we first got married when I was 21, and it paid well enough and had such good health insurance for such a low union dues, monthly dues, that we were able to have at that young age. Even I'd only been in my job a few years. We had two kids, and our kids cost a total of $50 for all medical visits to be born.
Had an extra visit. That's why
she had an extra visit because Elias was 2 weeks late, actually. So yeah, that it was $50. That's how much my kids cost. Our kids cost. So when I look at unions, I look at personal experiences. They're there to help the worker. And I can personally speak to that. I've always been pro-union. Now, can anything, use improvement? Certainly. But I think that anything that advocates for the worker when negotiating with the owners, the corporations, the other set of powers, you need a power base yourself. And that's why we're pro-union. Excuse me. Autism awareness. And that brings us to our son, Elias. Yes. As some of you know, I have a mild case of Asperger's syndrome, and our son, much more severe. He was highly autistic, and if it was not for the support we had gotten from programs that have since been attacked and cut by Betsy DeVos, which is the reason we were opposed to her entire, pretty much existence, I guess you'd say, but within the administration, certainly her existence. A billionaire donor should not be running a Department of the Education just because they're a billionaire donor. There should be qualifications to it. Yeah. But at any rate, we obviously, the government programs worked exactly like they should. They took somebody who couldn't fit into a normal classroom, our son did, just couldn't quite make it work. And then, last year he graduated with a Bachelor's of Science Engineering degree. So obviously, progress was made with support from the IEP programs in our local school districts. We bounced around a bit. We were in several good districts, and most of it came from federal funding, which then went to state level distribution of programs to help with autism. So we're not just I'm not just an advocate for all things autism. It's not just something we put on the profile. It's very real to us, and it's something we went through, and we do get a lot of questions in my DMs. Specifics. How did you do this? How did you do that? How did your son, deal with this, and etc. So, and that's why we speak on it. We're constantly learning ourselves. As the science advances on this, and just other people with stories, and it's great to hear. And here we are running for Congress.
He's running for Congress. I'm just the
You're not just the way. Okay, you're just the way. Behind every great man is a woman
rolling her eyes.
LGBT rights, and then this one, Clarissa and I, obviously, neither one of us was ever raised with any sort of discrimination towards others. So we were accepting to begin with, but then it really became clear. I'll let you tell the story about Maddie while I drink coffee.
We tried to raise our kids with values and all of that. And our daughter, she's wonderful. She's a wonderful person, sure, and very empathetic. And wherever we moved to, whenever she found someone who was being discriminated against at home as well as at school, somehow they always wound up sleeping on our couch until we could find them other relatives or help to do that. So for many, many years during the time she was in junior high school and high school, there was always other kids in the house. I was raised to believe that we're all children of God.
There you go. Okay, well, now that's all you get of Clarissa for the day. She's going to be off screen because we're going to bring in campaign manager Claire Stagg because we have, political stuff to talk about. Oh, lipstick. That's all right. It won't show up on the high def camera, will it? Yes. That's true. So yes, Claire Stagg, everybody, go ahead. Round of applause. Round of applause. Yeah. There she is. For her, obviously. Some catch up on. There was another happy anniversary. Thank you. Definitely need improvements to labor laws, of course. That's awesome. That sounds like my daughter. Yes, absolutely. Oh, Nicole. Yeah, yeah. We had an exchange about that. Yes, you're on the right track. You raise your kids to care about others and think for themselves, and that's the best advice I can give. And Tristan just said hi, Claire.
Hi, Tristan.
So what we wanted to talk about was another question from Kevin that I didn't print out. He called me a Twitter ace, and I don't know what that is, but awesome, thank you. But I think what he means is most of our social media reach is on Twitter, which yes, it is. But he said, "What's your ground game and strategy?" And that's what leads us into Louisiana's interesting distinctions in the way it does elections than others.
Yeah, so I get asked this one personally quite a bit from especially folks that are or want to be involved in our campaign that maybe aren't in Louisiana. And it's like, well, so the candidate in my state is doing this right now, and this right now, and this right now, and why aren't you guys? And so I'd like to tell you about the very interesting little predicament that the state of Louisiana is in. And that is that you guys are having primaries right now. Maybe you've already had yours. Maybe it's coming this month, whatever. Maybe you had it yesterday. We don't have those. We just don't have those. Like, we have a presidential primary that'll be on June 11th. I'm sorry, July 11th. It's already been June 11th. But we don't have congressional primaries. So whereas you guys in every other state will narrow it down to like a Republican candidate and Democratic candidate, how it works for us is it's called the jungle primary or the nonpartisan blanket primary. And essentially all candidates of all parties run on one ticket. And that happens on November 3rd, like the day of the presidential election. And if no candidate gets 50% of the vote plus one, then the top two candidates will go on to a runoff the following month. So what this means, and this is actually what happened when Rob ran in 2018, was there was seven candidates on the ballot, 7 of them all running against each other. In that case, the incumbent did get 50%.
56. Yep.
Yeah, plus one. So he avoided a runoff. But what that also means is that, like, they don't really know who's going to be on a ballot for sure until qualifying, which is for us July 22nd through the 24th.
Yep.
Is when we'll go, officially get our name on the ballot. But until then,
anybody can join the race.
Anybody could join the race. So
that makes it different down here.
There's no ground game going into trying to win a primary. So we really do try not to exhaust volunteer efforts, especially when, we've got a lot of volunteers that we're really grateful have signed up to help us from across the country. But so yeah, there's no primary. We won't even have an election here until November.
Right. So what that means is on July 24th, when people are asking, when can I do signs? When can I do phone banking for you? All that after July 24th, that's when the endorsements tend to come. It's sort of like our version of a primary, as Claire was pointing out. Up until then, we're campaigning, we're networking with all the contacts we need to make. We're getting set up for a lot of things. July 24th, you're on the ballot or not, and then you balls to the wall, which is an airplane term, by the way, has nothing to do with testicles.
Oh, thanks for that information, Rob.
That's true.
Really glad you decided to disseminate that for us today. Yeah, so we're kind of on a delay.
It's a weird state. Yeah, I mean, we are campaigning obviously the whole time. The ground game, as it were, and that not even to factor in COVID-19 this year. Obviously, that didn't even address that part of it. But nevertheless, on July 24th. We should see a lot of endorsements come in where the official Democrat is, until then, we're a candidate running for a seat, which I believe there's already 4 people signed up for, including Well, actually, I don't even think Clay is officially signed up yet. He must have, because there's no way you can't raise money until you run for
I
reelection.
mean, he's probably turned over his.
Yeah, I'm sure that's what he did. But at any rate, I think there's 4 or 5 of us. It's Louisiana. What you try to do is be positioned to run against the incumbent first place on July 24th, and then take it from there.
That kind of leads to that second part of this question. I'm not sure. Do you know who this came from?
No, that came from Lou. The
Okay.
second part.
Hi, Lou.
Hi, Lou.
So yes, we are going to have volunteer efforts. We are going to have, the sign waving and all of that goodness. But
postcards,
what
of
we're going
course.
to have a lot less of is door-to-door
Right.
canvassing, primarily because of COVID. I mean, it's. I don't know that people are going to be comfortable having their door knocked on, and I don't know that we're going to put our volunteers in the situation
Right, at that risk.
they could
We've
be
just
at
seen
risk.
an increase here locally where John Bell even extended phase 2. We can't go to phase 3 yet. So, regardless of what Facebook might tell you, COVID's still here and we're still dealing with it. So all of our campaign preparations are literally by analyzing what's going on in the data and trying to find the best approach going forward. And what makes sense for us is if we're going to do a little time is on our side right here. There's not much that's imperative to do until qualified.
Yeah, so to take the place of some of that canvassing that we would normally do, we're going to have an increased reliance on doing things like phone banking, text banking, emails, postcards. We are going to start rolling out soon. Ask you guys to write some postcards for us.
Thank you.
I've done postcards on a couple of different campaigns. People seem to really like.
They do respond.
Handwritten postcards,
as opposed to a printed mailer that everybody just throws right into the garbage.
And it's a big waste of our money.
It's a waste of money. It's a waste of everything. Waste of resources.
Indeed.
It's not green.
So the strategy there is that given that we are going to be kind of.
There she is. She said, "This is Lou. Just happy to help any way I can. Thank you very much."
Well, Lou, I'm going to be in touch. Yes, we're gonna. I can't see that.
Right. Signs. We didn't address that.
Yes, we are getting signs.
We could probably give her a sign right now. We have like 2. Oh, never mind. We'll have some soon.
We're ordering signs soon. We try not to do it too early. One, because at some point people stop seeing them. It's like you just don't see it. It's been there for a long time. Also, they get stolen.
Vandalized.
They get stolen a lot. So yeah, we're ordering signs soon, and we'll get you one. But yeah, long story short, we're gonna have to kind of change the way our campaign works, like every other campaign's having to do. Door-to-door knocking is the way you typically get out votes, and it's tradition, and it's also really dangerous right now. So we're trying to adapt to that.
Sourbread does stuff says I'm Lou's trans son. Hello. Welcome aboard, everybody. What else do we miss? SB Johnson said hi, Lou. They're introducing him to. Do you need me for this? Y'all are just talking to each other. Do I have to be here? No, I'm kidding. Happy to be here. Everybody says hi, Clara. They like you better than me, but unfortunately, I'm the one who's running, so you're stuck with me. But if you vote for me, then you get her awesomeness. So it kind of works out.
I personally think I'm charming and highly likable, but
exactly.
Okay. Do we have any questions?
I haven't seen any yet. Everybody's saying hi. We addressed those couple of questions. Did you have any more? Came in? Dave, Ash, anybody? If not, I like Claire. Aw.
I like you. Who said that?
SB Johnson. Does it matter where postcards are mailed from? That's a valid question.
No, it doesn't. We are essentially when we do that, how it tends to work is that we're going to pull names from our voter file of targeted voters. It'll probably go through a postcard program that's like there's a couple of them out there, postcards to voters, something like that, and they help organize that and make it a little bit more official. So we're not just sending out people's information, but yeah, it doesn't matter where they're mailed from. We do ask that they, kind of provide the postcards. We provide the language, so it is an ask on y'all's part. But
that's a good opportunity. Thank you. Ash points out if you want to volunteer, RobAndersonForCongress.com in the upper left, there's a little tab for volunteers where you just sign up. Basically, all that puts you in is a database so that our volunteer coordinator can then keep track of you and assign. And when you sign up, you can even, I believe, on that you could choose what it is you want to, what your capacity is.
And I will say we are going to do quite a few postcards. I mean,
Yeah.
Like just as an example, we did a lot of postcards last year for Canada. I was working for Lori Calais, and we'd actually, when we'd go
That's a
knock
state
on people's-
race.
Yeah, when we knock on people's doors, there were people who were like, "Oh, I got a postcard from you," and we're like, "Yes,
Handwritten
of course
postcards.
we knew that." Like,
Handwritten postcards, people
but
remember.
people like them. They'd keep them on their fridge. Like, it's kind of cool. So we are
A very effective voter tool and one of the low-cost ways to compete in the age of COVID-19. Did direct out, mass printed mailers, and nobody likes that stuff. I don't know. That's so 1980s.
They're expensive, and people take them out of their mailbox and throw them right in the garbage.
Yeah. Let's see. Send me whatever to do except knock on doors. No, we won't have you knock on doors, Sam.
To knock on doors for us down here.
Yeah, it would be. But postcards and
Distance.
texts and all that, sure, everybody will be signed on. Well, we're 20 minutes in. Have I run out of things to say already? There's a lot of things. Well, we were discussing beforehand. There's a lot of national issues going on, but since they're so tumultuous, I mean, I don't think we really need to weigh in on Bolton.
Is there like a controversy and opinion about the Bolton situation? I mean,
well, that he wrote a book and he's trying to profit on it, and that got leaked online. I mean, but we're just gossiping. I mean, he wants to make a lot of money on it, but then it was leaked online. Did you see that? That can't officially condone that. I think an author is entitled to their work, but I do think he should have testified in January. So a little karma coming back. I don't know anybody who's really sympathetic to Bolton right now. No. And because he should have testified. So, I mean, there is in Barr, and you heard about Flynn, the judge said, yeah. Never mind that you confessed, he's not going to face trial. So, awesome. So those national issues we can't comment on. We can go back to policy. Let's talk about here in Louisiana what we want to do. Take it away. I'm kidding. I'm just putting her on the spot. Obviously, our platform. What's going on with Twitter? Well, I'm still live here, so I'm not going to stand by. I'm just. Oh, did Twitter
stand by?
Stand by, Twitter. YouTube, you're still with me. So, yeah, let's go to the cornerstones of why we're running in Louisiana's 3rd district. People are suffering. The wage gap has increased far beyond what it was when I was Claire's age, for example, or my own kids are now this age. When I was young, I didn't even have a college degree, and I went out and got a union job, had a family, healthcare, had kids, all of that. To unlock it, it's going to have to be me, Dave. It's an iPhone 11. Yeah. Sorry, you're going to have to see how the sausage is made a little bit.
I already saw that last week.
Oh, yeah. Okay. And part just fell off. There you go. It's like the plug cover or something. It's not critical. I don't know what happened with Twitter, but at any rate, for YouTube, sorry. So yeah, people are suffering. The difference between the living wage is vaster than it has been at any point in history, I think, unless you go back to when people literally weren't paid to work. Under a capitalist system, the expectation is if you work a full-time job, you should be able to support yourself. That's what we sell as the American dream. And the truth is, to get by in the modern day, I think 40% of the country is either living substandard or works multiple jobs just to try to get ahead. So these policies need to be addressed. We need to stop making policies that just benefit the wealthy, that actually help the working people of the United States. And coming from a working class background, that's why I'm running. I'm very representative of the district. Started working when I was young. I was 14, like, a lot of us. Worked for 37 years in the field, IT. I know what it's like to raise a family. I know what it's like to to go into debt, just to have a vehicle to drive so you can go to work, all the struggles, digging behind the couch cushions to buy a gallon of milk for the kids' cereal on bad weeks. If you work a job that overtime is how you make your real money, if you're not getting overtime, you're just barely hanging in. So those experiences, what we bring to the table, we're not represented by special interests. We are just trying to speak for the people and say, this is what we need. We need healthcare. We need good roads and bridges so we can get to and from work. We need public Wi-Fi, rural internet, so that even the poorest and most disadvantaged can have access to. I mean, can you imagine not being online, as we're talking online in 2020? And there's a lot of people for whom that's a reality. It just my own DeQuincy, where I live, literally last December, we just got DSL. Never mind cable. We just got DSL last December. That's how far, and oh, I know one thing we can talk about: LUS fiber.
Yeah, that's great.
One of the there's a utility here. I'll get to the questions. Y'all can do the preliminary up there while we're fielding this. One of the premier publicly financed, I guess you'd put it, publicly owned utilities in the country is right here in Lafayette. LUS Fiber hardwired all of Lafayette to up to about 300 yards from Dave's house. As a matter of fact, he's right outside that district. Not happy about it.
Telling me, I live in Lafayette and I don't get it.
Right, because you're still on cable, but you have cable. At least, right?
Yeah.
Anyway, Lafayette, Louisiana, hard to believe, is one of the top 5 in the country at being wired with fiber optic. It's absolutely state of the art, and it was from a publicly owned utility that was so successful. The Republicans tried to pass a ballot initiative to privatize it and all that. Thank goodness that didn't pass. But I mean, when you're talking about a model for the rest of the state, we have it right here in Lafayette. All we have to do is expand from it.
It's really good. Like,
and
it's very reliable. It's very fast. It's very inexpensive.
Yeah.
The entire city loves it. But when it was happening, you would have thought it was like a Bolshevik plot.
Right.
And no,
Socialism, communism, until they put it in, realized tax, and they got amazing service. So our own district can be the role model, because we can start in Lafayette and spread out to Lake Charles and down to Morgan City and up to Alexandria, Shreveport. We can do it because we did. LUS did this. And somebody just LUS Fiber is fantastic. It's amazing, and it's hard to believe that it's right here in Louisiana. It's one of the best in the country. All right, now let's start tackling some of the questions we actually did get. Any ideas on strengthening labor unions in Louisiana? Well, from a federal level, that's difficult. We're in an at-will state, right to work state. So obviously we're going to push for
preemption on
the preemption.
Right to work and at-will laws.
And I think right to work laws should be abolished all across the country. So that's what I'd be going to Congress to do. I think unions are a good thing, and I think the counter messaging against them got so strong that people think right to work actually means something when it means right to work for less. That's all it means. If you break the labor unions, you break your negotiating power with your employer. And now, guess what? You have shitty health care. You have a right to work, though, at Walmart for minimum wage, because there's no other jobs. So yeah, we're a big fan of union, and what we could do on a federal level, as she pointed out, is start a federal level preemption to start fighting back against this. Start pushing unions. Unions are the middle class. We already answered that one. So let's see. Who in Congress are you most looking forward to working with, and why? I love Katie Porter. I have to say, I'm looking forward to. There's 435 members of Congress, and there's only about 5 of which that I just would walk the other way if I saw them in the hallway. So most people, I think, go into Congress at least with the intention of doing good. Some of them hold that, and some of them are really good at it. Katie Porter is one of my heroes. I love Eric Swalwell. I love Ted Lieu. We have Cedric Richmond in our state. There's a lot of Congress peoples, but those are obviously the become superstars for a reason. Katie Porter just knows her stuff, and she's amazing at standing up for the average person. So let's see. For starters, he isn't making videos calling out Governor Edwards for following CDC recommendations. Yes, you are correct. I am not. Now, what we did do when the pandemic first hit, and as you know, because you saw the videos, Claire, Dave, and Ash and I literally donated masks and face shields out to the hospitals and first responders, the public defender's office in Lake Charles, all over the state. We donated PPE because remember back then you couldn't buy toilet paper. You remember that first 2 weeks? It was or hand sanitizer. So we had a friend in Florida, a Democratic group, send us a bunch, and then for distribution because if you don't remember, New Orleans was one of the first hot spots. Exploded quickly, and then obviously Bell Edwards plans got a hold of it, but we were an early hotspot and a danger zone, so we got PPE everywhere. The VA, we got a whole bunch of face shields and masks to the Veterans Administration in Alexandria. That's what we did while Clay Higgins was telling everybody to ignore Edwards and to rise up against him. So,
the Tansations.
Yeah, they stood in front of the tanning salon in Lafayette, and he stood there. They shouldn't be closed. They should be in there, I don't know, snorting COVID off of things. Anyway, Higgins is a purely partisan animal. Obviously was not looking out for the people or even listening to the data, the CDC guidelines. Early on, nobody knew much of what was going on, but we knew there was a virus, and masks help slow the spread in conjunction with social distancing, hand washing. And certainly Edwards had to make a bunch of tough decisions about what could be open or not while trying to get the curve flattened and then have it fall. Now we're in phase 2, and we're seeing across the country spikes, new cases. Obviously, some will say that we reopened too soon, too aggressively. I'm not here to pass judgment. I'm just looking at the numbers, and it's troubling right now that how explosively they're rising in Texas, which is right next to us, and in Florida, where my dad still lives. And if you want to talk about a risk group, an 80-year-old man who just had heart surgery back in January, he's isolating. I promise you, he's not going out a whole lot. So, just we have to keep diligent about it. COVID-19 is real. You can't listen to the administration, listen to the CDC, listen to your state officials, and keep yourself safe. Sorry, I get going when I see all the stupidity in government. This is why I do it. It drives me up the wall.
You guys don't have to listen to it nearly as much as I do.
Yeah, normally I stay real chill and calm, but there is a reason I'm doing this. I can't stand watching stupid people make stupid decisions. It drives me crazy. Yes, Texas is a mess, and my daughter's living there, and she's already recovered from COVID. So, yep, Texas is a mess. Florida's in trouble. Sorry, Claire. What did she say to you? Okay. Guys, in my husband's work in an LNG plant. I think her husband works for Cameron, I believe.
That would be about right.
Are excited about my pro-union stance and the fact that you're one of them. That's awesome. Sorry we missed you at our party 2 weeks ago. Just to publicly embarrass you there, Lou. But not just kidding. What else people got? What did she apologize to you for? I don't get it.
She has to listen to you. I have to listen to him as much as I do.
It's my job.
That's true.
It's a lot, but
it is. I am a handful. I know I'm. Yeah, watch your fingers with the camera, Dave. The lens, the camera is literally right behind. The fat fingers. Those are not Donald Trump hands. Those are real hands.
literally looking at the stream, he can.
I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah.
Micromanaging.
Yes, I micromanage. I am a pain in the ass to work for. I will concede that right up front. Yeah, I don't micromanage.
Do we have more questions?
Yeah, let's see. As a Canadian, I'm not allowed to contribute financially other than retweeting you with positive comments. What can you do to contribute? Keep retweeting us on Twitter with positive comments. Share on other social media. Obviously, we do believe in being good to our neighbors. We're not with that Trump. We hate you because you're Canadian. I love Canadians. I have my Canada hat. I didn't wear it out here that Jessie gave me when she came down to visit New Orleans. So we love Canada. We love what you're doing with healthcare and the practical approach. And they're very pro two-way. And a matter of fact, the Acadians are Canadian transplants.
That's some brethren.
Yeah. So, we love the social media backup, share the word. That really does work, as you can see. I mean, word of mouth does spread, and that's what we have to rely on right now, with social contact being a little less than it was before. I would think debates would be fun to watch. Yeah, if you can get Higgins to debate, I'll be there. I'll be there. You get Higgins. I'm easy. Yeah, pom
In
pom.
2018, there was a forum.
Had a couple of the 2 forums he showed up for in 2018. One was sponsored by Lobby, of course, and then I forget what the other one was, one of the universities. But he did show up for 2. He did not show up for the Coastal Forum. He did not show up for the NAACP forums, of course. Yeah, I know. Big shock. I will be at all of those. Of course, we will be at every forum we're invited to opportunity to speak to the people. Don't hold your breath to get Higgins to actually debate, because the man can only quote what he's been told to memorize, and thinking on his feet is not his thing. I'll bring the pom-poms. Clay doesn't like you. I'm not surprised.
We don't like Clay.
We don't like Clay? No, I actually have no, on a personal level, I have no. Is it not holding steady or something? Is that why you're?
I don't know.
The gimbal is.
Oh, if you turn it up, it's off right now. That's why. Yeah, because it's trying to default to the spring. Yeah, let it go and then reset it. Yeah, now you can reset it. Just turn it and it'll sit. Just turn it. Just turn it. Don't hold your hand on it. Just let go.
Yeah.
Now just turn that part. Sorry, Twitter. Technical difficulties, actual technical difficulties. Debates would be fun to watch, but I don't know what likelihood they will have. I promise you this time, I am going to be a lot less mild than I was last time. I do engage a crowd, and I feed from your energy, and I'm going to be a little bit harsher towards the incumbent. I'm a bit of a hybrid, an oil and gas consultant, but I vote blue. Awesome. How do you propose to work on the foundations of the Democratic Party and being inclusive of the oil and gas industry? I'd love to bring a bridge to that. Having worked in that industry or the fringes thereof, I worked geotechnical. We did a lot of environmental work and consulting with. So I have not actually worked on a deep sea oil rig, and I don't mean to give that impression, but the drilling industry, mud rotary drilling, those are in it. You know what I'm talking about. That's the same tools that we use. The only difference being when I got put on a fracking project, it was hydrofracking, and I asked them never to put me on that job again. I didn't like that division. I worked on more the environmental side. All that being said, as part of the resume, the people have to realize that the industry most likely to benefit from alternative energy investment is the energy industry, and I don't know why they don't see it and put more of their money. Right now, they're trying to drain all that they can out of it. If the oil and gas industry, which does quite well, as we know, would stop getting so much socialism from the government, if we stopped supplementing them and they had to pay their own way, that they might not like us as much. And I think that's part of it, is nobody wants to be taxed. Nobody wants to pay to run a society, and libertarians say no tax, and Republicans say keep cutting taxes for the rich, and Democrats are all over the board. We're personally on more of let's regulate industry. Let's not let them poison the water. Let's bring back the EPA. That was a Republican program. Richard Nixon, 1972. Used to be illegal to dump your chemical waste in the water, but Trump's been signing some executive orders that people really need to pay attention to. So the oil and gas industry is like any other industry. It just needs to be regulated so that it does not harm the groundwater or our air. And if it does, I shouldn't have to pay the cleanup. She shouldn't have to pay the cleanup. The people who made the mess. It's been established by environmental law. Superfund sites, if you make a toxic waste mess, you own it till the end of time. You can't bankrupt your way out of it. So people who make the mess should be responsible for it. I just wanted to finish that.
Yeah, no, I was just going to throw in one thing that we'd been talking about recently was like trying to be a bridge for oil and gas companies, energy companies in general, to expand into renewable. There's that, Entergy owns a big solar plant,
right? That they just in Plaquemine,
right across from Baton Rouge, and I see no reason they're existing energy utilities shouldn't be part of the transition into renewable energy. There's money to be made there, and there's money to be made there for them.
Money and jobs. Our main approach is we don't have any problem with any corporation making money on anything they want. Somebody has to look out for the people, and that is the government's job, for lack of a better term. It can't be completely out of it, because otherwise, as has been shown, any entity will spend the least amount they can to make the maximum amount of profit. That's what a corporation is. That's literally what they do, is try to make the maximum profit margin. And so, if you make a mess, you got to clean it up. And that's, we just got to put, just like we have speed limits when we drive, or, other individual civil laws, industry has to be regulated so that it doesn't harm the people. And that's kind of our, approach as Democrats, is the regulatory aspect. I think that is the most insidious part of what's happening these last few years, is all the rampant, unchecked, unregulated, for lack of a better word, deregulation. So yeah, you have to make decisions wisely and for the long term. And progressive doesn't mean no oil and gas. It means, hey, let's get oil and gas to build all the solar plants. I don't care who owns them. We just want more green energy, cleaner air. Everybody's looking to get rich, and that's not the government's job. So that's probably why I can't parse it that well. I don't understand the desire for money. All right, let's see. Have to run. Take care and good luck, Rob Mob. Thank you, Tristan. I already got it. Well done. Let's see. Well done. Cogent answer, and carbon neutral is coming. Absolutely. Yeah, we actually do the reading on this side of the of the ticket. Clay, I'm not so sure. Sometimes hearing him speak that he reads the issues or understands them. Yeah, he understands the pictures of Washington or Lincoln or is it Grant? Grant's a 50, or Ben Franklin, Benjamins. Make it rain.
Hey, you got 20 minutes.
I got 20 minutes. Any more questions? If not, you're gonna hear me freewheel, and I'm not sure you want to do that. I saw that. I get it. Well, we started addressing infrastructure. One of our big pushes is obviously the incentivizer. Are you endorsed by? Okay, again, we'll refer to endorsements will come after qualifying. Most endorsing bodies have a schedule revolved around a primary, and in Louisiana, we don't have a primary. So after July, you will see. I have met with the AFL-CIO many times, and we obviously like each other. I can't speak for them, but I imagine towards the end of July, we'll start seeing a lot more official endorsements pop up. And that's why that timetable. That's the only reason we explained that. We'd love to say, yes, we're endorsed by, but, can't, not in Louisiana. And it annoys the hell out of people if you speak for them. So for good reason. I'm endorsed by the Rob Andersons of DeQuincy. Yes, you are. I endorse myself. Just barely. It's
not.
It wasn't plurality of voted.
Wow.
Okay. What else have we talked about? We talked about infrastructure a little bit. Healthcare. Do we really want to tackle universal healthcare and Medicare for all? And
you just decided to say that. Do you want to tackle it?
Obviously, healthcare is one of the biggest. I saw it. You nailed question one. Okay, next one. What can we do? Okay. Well, this should take up the next 20 minutes. Well, it's a good one because it ties into multiple. So I'll read it. What can we do to remove Louisiana from the top of the prison industrial complex? Yes, and how can we address the associated systemic racism in our government? That's all one holistic question. And so, excellent one, Jason. Jason's knocking these questions out of the park, right? That's the perfect one, because that is the root of why we are running the Democratic ticket. And then what we had talked about earlier with tweet, we'll fold that in. Let's start with the more obvious ones. One of our earliest issues from 2 years ago was pro cannabis, not just pro medical, not pro partial. No, just legalize cannabis, remove it as a Schedule I narcotic, and tax it, and use that revenue for the betterment at the state level. Let every state regulate as they do now, just like tobacco or alcohol, and that tax revenue be attributed to certain things and not slush funds. That'd be awesome. Now, when you talk about cannabis legislation, it naturally leads you down that stairway. Will it come with amnesty? Well, of course, yes. You'd have to answer that. Yes, it would come with amnesty for the nonviolent offenses, and then all of a sudden you'll start to see this systemic racism and oppression, which is locked up specifically at a 3-to-1 or 4-to-1. Men of color in Louisiana get locked up more than white people like me, Caucasian. My own story on that, 1987, I got a ticket for smoking a joint in public. I went down, had to get fingerprinted, and got an appearance and paid a $400 fine. Literally just walked away that same day while still stoned. I think we all stumbled home because we had to walk home from the police officer. So, but that's not the experience for people on an everyday level now. As we know, there are people who go to jail for a year or multiple years for the same thing that for me was a slap on the wrist. So you can see the inherent privilege. I can't lie and say, oh, there's no privilege. Yeah, there is. And that's how we do this, because we have private prisons, ties together. The school to prison pipeline. We don't educate our students enough, and we don't give them opportunities to go out and to go into union trade schools or, other avenues of education beyond just a 4-year degree. Not knocking 4-year degrees. I know it always sounds like I'm knocking 4-year degrees. I'm not. My own son went and got an engineering degree. I'm a big fan of 4-year degrees, but they're not for everybody. But a 1-year mechanics class so you can build diesel engines. You can work in that field. So what we do is take that focus away from education, and we have to do something with all these people. And it is a money-making venture. The more people you lock up, the more private prisons make, and the more they donate to politicians. So that's why at the top of the iceberg, the part you see is the cannabis legalization. Underneath that whole system that's set up to lock up people of color, to get them out of the way and put them into prison and call them criminals, therefore justifying everything that happens to it. That's the systemic part that we need to address and everybody needs to address. And then we'll go on to, I know you had a half dozen thoughts in there about that.
Well, I was just going to say that you kind of had it with the school prison pipeline, specifically refers to the criminalization of disciplinary behavior in students, and how that basically sets them up for a life of further criminalization. It's not necessarily just about them not having opportunities, but setting up what will end up being a cycle of recidivism their entire
You mean
life.
a deliberate,
Yeah,
more or
well,
less, whether intentionally or not, it's some action behind it that creates, and it is a revenue creating function ever since prisons were privatized. And when you look at, well, how can they do that? If you look closely at the 13th Amendment, which ended slavery in this country, as we know, except in cases of those imprisoned by a court of law. So if you didn't know this, and I literally didn't until I went back and read the 13th a couple of years ago, slavery is still legal in the United States if you're convicted by a judge. You are absolutely allowed to be treated and are legally a slave, that they can get as much work out of you as they can for the length of your sentence. And that, to me, absolutely needs to be addressed. We should not have legalized any form of slavery. And we shouldn't extend slavery into the criminal justice system. I don't think it should be a profit making. I don't think you should profit off of people's misery, first of all. The private prisons are a bad idea and need to be, dispensed with, I guess is one way of saying. Let's see, that was all Jason's questions. And more people need to know this. Oh, but yes, I agree, GMQ. What else did you have there? Oh, yes, Osprey's up a good one. For more resource on this, there's a Netflix documentary called 13th that clearly delineates the entire private prison process and from top to bottom. I have not seen it yet. She recommended it just the other day. And yeah, so I was like, you know what? There, Lou just mentioned it. So obviously, I'm behind the curve on this on the Netflix documentary.
Well, it came
But
out in 2016. We're just starting to talk about
I've been dealing with the Trump administration since 2016. So. Like everybody else, we're just trying to catch up. All right, we got about about 10 minutes to go, but that's usually, like your favorite psychologist or therapist, you get a 45-minute hour. It's not necessarily an hour. If you don't ask a question now, forever hold your peace for one more week, because we do these every week. Oh, also, we will bump. Tomorrow night, we have a town hall with the No Dems Left Behind. Richard Ojeda is going to be hosting. The links are separate on my page, and I'll retweet them again. There should be a big town hall tomorrow. There's 11 candidates now. I don't know whether after the primary. I'm not sure on the candidate count. No offense to anybody. It was 10, then they added. And Richard Ojeda, former Senate candidate and House candidate, will be hosting, and we're very excited about that. It's just he's just named the national spokesman of No Dems Left Behind. So on Facebook, I am Rob Anderson for Louisiana. On Twitter, at Rob Anderson 2018. I see you smirking. I can see you. I can see it right there. At Rob Anderson 2018. Obviously, the website is robandersonforcongress.com. I forget what else. Don't worry about the TikTok or Instagram. Don't go looking for those unless you're 20, 25 or under. Then we have some really good ones.
I don't know why you pick on me for that.
Hey, after that, we could bring up the TikTok and the K-pop toppling the Tulsa rally last week. That was kind of epic. So yeah, the kids might save us. Get out and vote. Vote. Yeah, exactly. Vote blue. Vote Biden. Vote me. Let's get rid of this entrenched, corrupt, shithead stuff we've been dealing with for so long. These corporatists. All right, everybody just yelled at me for language, but I mean, seriously, it comes down to who's paying your politicians. And if you can track their money trail, and 98% of a candidate's donors or corporations, come on. Is he supported by the people, or is he supported by industry? In the case of Clay Higgins, by the way, 98%. And
I told you that.
Yes, I know. I know. So that's it. I think. Yeah, we're close enough. That's still running if you want to turn off. Thank you all. Another fun week. Thanks to my wife who's still sitting over. She's having a cup of coffee. Thank you to Ash. Thank you to Dave, who bailed out in the middle. He better be cooking pizza.
I'll ask Dave to shut off the Twitter.
Yeah, can you kill the Twitter? We're ready to. Yeah. And thank you all, and good night. Good questions tonight, especially Jason. Y'all rock. See you next time.